Oh yeah. Yep, there's the issue. Ball joint. CV axle pulled out. Leaking transmission fluid. Let's fix it. Alright, welcome back. As you could tell, we made it home, or to the spot. I like being here at the garage. I was trying to get it to where I can get it to the customer's driveway, and it wasn't successful. I traveled a little bit, jacked it up, I put the ball joint in the little cup, and you'll see that as we dig deeper into the problem, you'll see what I mean. But as soon as I drove and when I go to turn, it popped it out and we end up in the same position. So got tired of treading it, spent too long on it, so just got it towed here. But that's good because now I'm here with all my tools. Right here, I got two control arms. You can just replace the ball joint. They press in, they press out. But what I am going to do is replace the control arms altogether. This having over 200,000 miles, the ball joint, once you see the condition of those, it's only a matter of time before the other one also fails, and you don't want that to fail while you're driving. This happened to pop out and cause the issue when they were just starting to pull off and drive away. So I think the sharp turn is what finally pulled the wheel and popped it out, and that's kind of where they end up staying. So we're just going to go ahead and, like I said, the bushings and stuff on this, on the A-arm, you'll see it, the condition. For the price, it's $150 for both of them, left and right. So I'm going to do both of them. Like I said, if one did it, the other one's not far behind. TRQ, 1aauto.com, that's where I always get my OEM replacement parts. OEM usually costs more, you know how it is. So I've always used these guys, 1aauto.com, for, man, a definite number of years, and never had an issue with the part as far as longevity goes. So here we go. I'm going to start by jacking up the problem side, and then we'll take off the wheel. That's pretty standard. And then once I get in there, I'll explain a little bit more. Okay, wheels off. And right here is our problem. See that? That's the ball joint, or part of it. That's the bottom part. That's the part that's pressed into the arm. And then that is the ball part to the ball joint. As you can tell, the boot got dry, ripped off. When it gets cracked, it tends to get dry, water gets in there, debris like dust and sand and dirt, and that mars it up. And then it gets rusty, and once it mars it up, it's basically like sanding it in there and working itself back and forth. Eventually, this is what you get. It pops out. Now that this happened, it popped out and then it shoved the whole wheel back. As you can tell, it ended up doing a little bit of damage. Nothing noticeable really when you have the wheel on, but it definitely folded itself under there and damaged that. Also, in addition, I just noticed that it ripped the boot to the CV axle. So this definitely goes with what I just explained on the ball joint. Now that that's ripped and cut open, grease, obviously the grease is coming out, and then water is going to get in there, sand and debris is going to get in there. It's going to do the same thing. It's going to flush it out. It's going to put basically sandpaper inside there. It's going to work its way and start popping and going dry and cause more issues down the road. So we need an axle now. That's okay though. We're not going to, just put it together and stick with what we got. We'll walk through that. That'll be a separate video, okay? Right now it's going to be the A-arms because I got to wait for that anyway. So now that we know our problem, we're going to go ahead and get at it. So as far as this goes, your ball joint is going to be the first thing that you're going to take off if it wasn't already broken. So I'm still going to go ahead and walk through this. It'll make more sense on the other side, but I got to remove this anyway. So as far as this being the beginning of this tutorial, we'll just go ahead and go with that, and then we'll move on. All right, bear with me a little bit. I'm adjusting the settings on this camera It's kind of dark here, so I'm making this part lighter. This will look obviously way too bright, but this is our focus. So this is going to be a bolt and a nut on the other end. This is going to be a pinch bolt for this ball joint. So this side, the flat side, the bolt side, this is going to be a 13 millimeter, and then the nut on the other side, 15 millimeter. Alright, so the ball joint is now going to have to come out. Like I said, the nipple of it goes in, and then you got a pinch bolt here. I'm going to go ahead and spray some penetrant. The reason why I would do this is to help loosen up that ball joint, because it has to slide out. And then we'll take this pinch part here, we'll stick something in there, kind of wedge it.
There we go.
All right, and then that's how it looks on the top. Hopefully you don't have to get to this point, but if you do, like I said, spray it with penetrant, wedge something in there. I end up having to use my my little breaker bar, or my little pry bar, and then should be able to grip it and pull it out. Usually it's all together, and then you knock down on the A arm. Regardless, it slides out. So on to the next step. For the next thing, like I said, we're gonna have to do this axle, but we won't do that now. Well, we got a new issue. Oh boy. All right, I'm gonna introduce you to the new issue, or the additional issue. Because the ball joint gave out and this whole knuckle was flopping everywhere, the wheel, all that stuff, it pulled this, okay? Pulled this out. In return, it pulls that CV joint. If she was in gear and trying to drive, this would be flopping all around. Now, what the components inside have to all be, you know, connected in order for it to be kind of geared and turn. So when it's pulled out like this, it's probably flopping, and then it wasn't engaged, and then, you know, ripped there. Also, when the wheel came out and got wedged under, this popped out. This is your sway bar end link, and right there is the other half of it. Again, the rubber boot area, and ended up popping the shoulder out of it. Right here it is, and that's that little cut part. I'm not gonna shove that in. We're gonna have to get another one of these too. So sway bar end links. So I'm still gonna take that off. It's gotta come off for when I get the new ones. Spray this down with penetrant oil, and same thing with this bolt here. For this, for both of these, for the sway bar end link, it's actually a little bit different than what you're probably used to. It has the nut on here, and then the center is actually an Allen key. It's a 7/32, okay? It'll fit in there just like that. So the trick is, because this is a ball joint, that's the shaft of the ball joint, over here it doesn't have a hex head, so nothing to grip on. So that's where this comes in handy. Then you obviously use whatever you have here, or a regular Allen key, and you'll this is what you're going to be turning. Problem is, this nut here is what's holding it. So ideally, you're going to want a wrench and then hold it there. So that's what I'm going to do. It's just right now this nut is kind of clocked to where I can't really get the head of my wrench down in there. And this part, I think, is too big, if I remember right. Maybe not. Nope, it'll get in there. So never mind, just use the closed end, and then now you'll be able to unscrew it with that. Want to make sure you can kind of break it loose a little bit. There you go. See how now it loosened the nut up a little bit, but now it's turning with it. that's when you use the Allen key. Again, 7/30 seconds. A wire brush would probably come in handy to help clean up those threads a little bit so it comes off easier. And impacts maybe, but like I said, you don't want to get too rambunctious with that Allen head, because once you round that out or mess that up, then it's going to cause you a little more headache trying to get this off. So I'm going to go on the back side here, kind of like I did the ball joint, and I'm going to clamp my vice grips on as hard as I can. That way I can turn that nut right there and have the center part stay. All right, it's just such a pain in the ass to get in there. I've done it with the vice grips, but to get it even tighter, that's hardened metal, so it's really hard to clamp it just right and hard enough so where it doesn't move, but it is possible. I'm sure if I spend more time on it and stuff like that and get a good angle, I can get it. If not, you can use a cutoff wheel. Regardless, I think that would be silly to spend that much time on that anyway right here, since this whole part is getting replaced. So I'm going to still have to do the same with this, because this is still good. This is your sway bar, so I'm still going to have to do the same process. Hopefully this one comes off a little bit better. All right, as you can tell, I got the vice grip clamped on the back. So I was saying, you gotta make sure you clamp that really tight though, so it doesn't spin. Again, you shouldn't really have to go through this, but this being an older vehicle, about 200,000, over 200,000 miles on it, you're bound to get some issue like that. This thing pretty hot. So this is the other way to get your tie rod end out, or your sway bar end link out. Okay, right there's the center. So like I said, I could get that bottom one out. Not even really going to waste time on that, because the control arm is what we're after. But honestly, just like that, the ball joint on your steering knuckle, and then the sway bar end link. Typically, if all this stuff was okay, you would only have to worry about the bottom one, okay? And then now we just unhook some bolts here and over here for the A-arm, and then it should come out. So time to go underneath. I'm gonna have to move my jack stand, because unfortunately this is part of it and that needs unbolted, so my jack stand will probably be up front. All right, as we dip under here, you're gonna see this portion. There's 3 points to an A-arm, so that hence the name of it. So 1, and then 2, then 3 in the shape of an A. Okay, this was your ball joint. That's 1 point. We're going to get to that. And then this side is what we're working on right now. This whole thing, this is what I said I had my jack stand on. This actually bolts to it. It kind of pinches in between this portion. So for these 2 bolts, also the nuts for these are up top, but they're welded onto this A-arm. So you don't have to worry about getting a wrench up there and stuff. That's pretty nice of them to do that. So these 2, 15 millimeter. Again, I sprayed it with penetrant here, and I kind of blindly soaked the hell out of it up here, hoping to get the threads and stuff like that. I did the same over there, but for this bolt, it's going this way. So I sprayed a little bit right here in this back part and on the front, hoping to get it broke up a little bit. So 15 millimeter, we'll go ahead and loosen those out. I did have to use a breaker bar on this, but nice and slow. I think I nailed it with that penetrant, because it's coming up pretty easy. You can kind of feel it when it gets through all of them. And there we go. The other one is about like that. I don't know if you can tell. There we go. So you could tell the gunk right around this section. That's the stuff that you fight. That's why it's nice to do a wire brush, but all that is build up gunk and stuff over the years. So now that those two are out, don't lose them. Put them right here because you will have to reuse those. Now let's move on to up here. Right here is that bolt, and it's an 18 millimeter. So like I said, I sprayed it down as much as I could blindly, and on the other side hoping to get it. So if not, like I said, just take your time, work your threads. So I'm gonna have to set the phone down, but that's the only bolt up here, and that's the one we're taking out. Get yourself a pry bar. It's gonna help you out a lot, or a breaker bar. 1/2 inch drive, that's what I use. It's the tougher one. You don't really need to go 1 inch, I don't think, or 3/4 drive. 1/2 inch drive is just fine. If you don't have a breaker bar, I got mine at Harbor Freight. I've never had an issue with it yet. I haven't had a job where I've broken one either. All right, I feel like it's loose enough. I can use the ratchet. Yep. All right, I almost threaded out, but go on the other side. What you've seen, jiggle it a little bit, and it'll guide itself right out. So it's about how much you're looking at, maybe about, I don't know, 2 inches of thread. So again, keep that bolt down here. You're gonna have to reuse that. Now, the good news, it's pretty much good. So now we slide it out. Get your breaker bar, a little bit of persuasion, pop it out of there, just like so. All right, right there's the old part, right there's the new part. Okay, got your new ball joint. This does not go on there. That's just a protective cap. Okay, that does not go on. Right here's your ball joint. Like I said, the nuts, they're on there, and then this one straight through. So now we just slide this back in its home, put that bolt back in, those two, so on and so forth. All right, just in case you're wondering, yes, it all lines up. It was a pain in the butt to figure out, but I will tell you, don't put this bolt in first, even though you would probably want to. Definitely do these. When your knuckle is like loose, you're really gonna want to pull it and hold it away from there. You're gonna have some tension on it, but you're gonna want to hold it away from there. That way this is as free as possible. And the two holes, they will line up. You'll know when they're lined up because when you push the bolt all the way in, you'll probably have about that much of a gap to tighten down. So it was like this for a while, so I know my holes weren't lined up, but when I got it down to about there, it was perfect. Just start them, that way it holds it in place. Then come over here, line that up, stick that bolt through, start the threads by finger, and then you should be able to go ahead and tighten them all down. Probably tighten these ones first, and then anchor that boy. All right, I already tightened those ones up quite a bit. Again, I don't do torque specs really on a lot of things. If you want to look them up, go ahead. But I just put them on there almost as tight as I even could with this breaker bar, so I know it's not going nowhere. Same thing with this one. Like I said, I would do this one last. But before I fully tighten down those ones, I tighten this one down as much as I could by finger. That way I know almost all of the thread is in there. And then I fully tighten those ones down. Now I'm coming back to fully tighten these. Because there's two there, I want to make sure they're lined up right. And then this one, like I said, probably as tight as you kind of can. All right, now we go back up top. All right, now once you have that tightened down, this is what I wanted to do, both of them, because these are fresh bushings. Those ones over there, the old ones, pretty wore out. So with the fresh bushings lined up, and this bracket, that's pressed on there with that bushing. So that bracket only goes on one way. It does flex, but when you put it on, it seats this arm level. So you're gonna have to push this arm down quite a bit to get that ball joint. I'll have to adjust the brightness, but to get the ball joint in the pinch groove down here. So we're gonna have to push down quite a bit on that, or jack this up. But I probably wouldn't jack this up. I would focus on pushing this down. If I change my mind and do different technique, I'll show you. All right, I'm pretty sure with this axle, keeps popping in and out of its socket. It's not designed to do that. So in order to seat this and get this whole knuckle on there, I got to keep rotating this to pop it back into its joint and then push down on this. It's becoming a little bit of a pain. So you might even be in this scenario yourself. So tell you what, we're gonna go ahead and do what basically I would call plan B. With a good axle, shouldn't have to really go through all this. Should just be able to put a pry bar in there or something, get that A-arm down, and then seat that ball joint on there. But this isn't the case because this thing keeps popping in and out. Like I said, it got knocked around and stuff like that when this whole situation happened. So plan B is we're gonna have to take these two bolts out. We're also gonna take off this brake line so we don't get no snags. That should free up enough things. Once we get this out of there off this strut, then we'll be able to lift up the knuckle a little bit easier. Now keep in mind, when we knock these bolts out, it's only going to be held on by this tie rod end. So don't let this whole thing just kind of do what it wants to do. Once we pop these loose, then we're going to be able to have more free movement, and then lift it up and kind of put it on that ball joint. You might still have to push down the A-arm, but you'll see what I'm doing. I'm going to soak this down with PB Blaster. That should be a 10mm if I remember, and then 18mm. So I'll mention the sizes in that unless something changes. I'm going to kind of just go through the video, just watch my steps as I do it. Again, this is kind of a unique situation because it caused a little bit more damage. The other side should be a lot better and more straight through. So here we go. Alright, now all I gotta do is remove that bolt, and then like I said, the whole knuckle's free. So be mindful of everything. I did not unplug my speed sensor over here. I'm not really too worried about that. I'm gonna pull that bolt out, then catch the knuckle and place it on the ball joint. I'm also gonna have to move this axle a little bit to fit it in there. Okay, see that? Hopefully you got a good angle. Just move the ball joint, line it up with that, and then drop it right on. As you can see, it slid on and it's got its own weight. Now for your axle, typically it wouldn't be this pulled out, but I'm gonna have to turn my rotor and stuff like that and line all that stuff up to pop back in. I will be replacing this, but I'm gonna finish all these steps for that, and then this will be a separate video. But I know I need to do that before I can drive it. All right, these top bolts, this right here, both of those bolts have that. It's like a stopper, and that nut is actually welded to it, so you really don't even need anything on that side. That'll hold it. So these are as tight as I can get them. Again, I'm going to take all that apart to replace the axle, so that's a separate video. I know I keep repeating that, but I want to make sure you know that. Now, only thing left is that pinch bolt. Make sure that it's all the way seated down on that ball joint, and then reinstall your pinch bolt. All right, and there you have it with this side. Like I said, this was the problematic side, so we obviously had, you know, accumulated issues. One of them being the tie rod end link, which we're going to show you how to replace that. That's not installed on here. And the axle, which again I'm going to replace. So I'm going to put the wheel on here, that way when I jack up the other side and work on that, it has, you know, both wheels to kind of support it. I don't want to leave it on this jack stand and tilt that up and kind of throw that off balance. So as of right now, we're going to go ahead and do the other side. Pretty straight forward. We've already been through the messier part on this end. That one is just replacing. That way we know we don't have any issues with this along the or down the road. Something I want to note, that the ball joint for that bolt, so you see this little groove, you'll know when this isn't in all the way because the bolt will hit up here. This is just enough of a divot to where that bolt goes through so that it doesn't come in and out. So still tighten it pretty good, but you'll know when it's all the way seated when that bolt can pass this little channel right here. But other than that, let's go ahead and hit the other side. All right guys, another day. I had to wait a little bit waiting on parts. At work I went ahead and made these plates. They're pretty thick. They're steel. Just something to put my jack stand on. That way it's not on the rocks and stuff. The wood was fine, but I heard it cracking. So this one's going to be a lot more straightforward. So if you made it this far, I greatly appreciate it. But now there's no problems with this. I just want to replace it because that ball joint failed. I don't want it to happen to this. So this should all be pretty much walk through step by step and easy. So first thing I do, jack it up, put it on a stand, take off your wheel, and then we'll get at it. All right, now that we got this wheel off, we're gonna go ahead and hit our points with our PV Blaster, our penetrant. I did order a pair of these stabilizer end links. Those actually will be here today along with the axle for over there. Part of the reason why I waited a couple days. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray these down. That one down there. Whether you do it or not, that's up to you. I had to because of the incident over there. But go ahead and spray all your points down with PV Blaster so it has a little bit of time to do its thing. All right, now that we had all of our points sprayed and we got a little time for it to sit, we're going to do the pinch bolt for the ball joint. So the nut, that's going to be a 15, and then the bolt side, that's going to be a 13. Just going to take that bolt completely out. Put that somewhere where you're not going to lose it. All right, next, remember you got a little groove in there. Right here. Go ahead and stick your pry bar in there or like a screwdriver of some sort. You're going to have to kind of wedge that open. Don't go crazy. This is like a cast aluminum part. It's made to bend a little bit, but you can break it off. Don't let that discourage you. Just hammer something in there. That way it helps break up that ball joint. All right, next step, after you pry that open a little bit, spray some stuff in it so that it helps break that loose. You're going to have to go ahead and loosen either this one or that one for the sway bar end link. You can do whatever one you want. I'm going to replace it, so I got to take it off anyway, but the purpose of taking off one of the ends is so that, because this is resisting it, so once you free this up, it's going to allow that bottom arm to swing, and that's kind of what you want to do so you can pull it out of that knuckle. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one off first, and then I'll get to that one. I'm not sure if over there it was so much rust on the inside I couldn't get the size in, but this one, 6mm. That is a absolute really tight fit. Probably would have helped a lot more if I had it over there, but 6mm hex on the end of there. Then you're going to want to use a wrench to spin that nut and hold that center, or vice versa. Got a ratcheting wrench that should help a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen that. Just like that. That's how it's supposed to come off. All right, put the nut back so you don't lose it. You know where it goes. Now at this point, if you wanted to pop off the knuckle, you can. Just get a pry bar. See if it's in focus. Get a pry bar like so. Okay. Find a spot where you're gonna pry down on this or underneath. It's probably better just to show you. Look at my pry points and how I knocked that out of there. All right, a little bit of fighting. Got my cheater bar, get in there, but there you go, pulled it right out. Next, we're gonna do the 2 bolts underneath. All right, right as you come under here, right there is your 2 15mm bolts. Again, the nuts at top, those are welded on, so you don't have to worry about holding it with a wrench or anything. It'll stay put. I already sprayed it down, it had time to soak, so I got my breaker bar to try and break them loose, and then we'll go ahead and take them out. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. That's really gonna suck. All right, before I go any further with what I'm doing, I'm pretty sure it's gonna work, or it's gonna help me get it off. As you've seen, broke the head off. The other one, oh, hell, I don't know where it is. The other one came out, oh, right here. The other one came out fine, but as you can tell, this is why I hate American cars over time. Like, if you're not trading these in or getting a new Ford, Chevy, Dodge, probably every 8-10 years, then from being new, then you're gonna run into stuff like this. But trying to think of all these different ways, and then bam, my wife had an idea. She said, can you just drill it? So I like that idea a lot. I have 0 room in here. So here, I'll try and reference it. Let me flip. All right, so here's my hand for reference, okay? Trying to take out the sway bar bolts back here, that one and the other one. It's also rusted up underneath, and there's a nut there. That's just so I can lift it to get a socket on there. Well, then I remembered these nuts are welded on. So I went to my old one that I took off, and I tried breaking it, like seeing maybe if I could break the spot welds or something on this nut. No, it's welded underneath. So I don't know what I'm gonna be able to do. I don't have a regular wrench. I have this one, which is the ratcheting end, which is nice when you can use it, but as far as fitting it in there, there was no way. I was even considered grinding the damn thing down, but if I grind it down, it might mess up the teeth there. So that's not an option. Like I said, sockets are an option because the nut's welded on. And then she said, drill it. So sure as shit, I'm gonna drill it. And I have been drilling it, and it's all the way through, as you can tell. But I got one more bore to go. By the way, Stinger, Lowe's, or wherever you can get this, Spider, these drill bits, these are the shit. I've went through a lot of drill bits in my life. These are the shit. I've had some mistakes, but those are my fault. Trying to do jobs that it wasn't designed for. But I got this last bore, and then once I bore that out, I mean, technically I got as low as I could, close to that collar, but that's why I'm going bigger and bigger, so that eventually I can probably knock this out, because there's not going to be any threads. I'll figure all that afterwards, but I want to be able to knock that off. I was going to cut this bracket all up and shit just to get to it, but I can't lift anything up out of it, being that that threaded rod is still in there. I can't lift up the bracket or anything because of this stuff. So this is my option. Hopefully, I know I said that this was going to be the easy side, but what do you know? It's probably because I said it. So maybe you guys run into this issue. That's why I feel like I would show it. So we're going to go ahead and do another bore, and I'll get back with you. All right, well, there's where I'm leaving it. I used the biggest one I had, and once I made it all the way through, just kind of wallered it all around as much as I could with the clearance that I had. There's almost no reason why that thing should be holding on. Let's see if I can get in there. That's the best I got, but there's no reason why that thing should be holding on. So my plan now, the bolt's still in there. I'm sure the threaded part. What I'm going to do is take off this last bolt over here underneath that holds this A-arm on, and that way everything's free, and then I could try and probably pry in between here if I can and try and pull it out, because like I said, I don't think anything's holding on there anymore. I drilled it up pretty good. If anything, I can shimmy it. I could try and get it out. So let's get that. All right, with this view, I'm basically just going to try and shimmy this thing out. In theory, if all the bolts are out, it should come right out. I mean, with a little bit of shaking and stuff, but I know I'm going to have to fiddle with this, but that's what I'm going to be doing. Nothing special here. I had pretty good confidence I grinded that out, or did it with the drill bit. But yeah, again, wasn't expected. This was supposed to be the easy side, the side I technically didn't even have to fix, but the reason for it, if that ball joint was bad, then this one was probably bad, and wouldn't you know it? See that? Anytime these rubber boots are ripped, all that grease and stuff leaves. And then when it leaves, water gets in, flushes it out. Then you got all this dirt and grime that get in that. So it's like sandpaper. Then it grinds it down, and before you know it, it's smaller or different than when it's supposed to be in there, and pops right out. And who knows, if you're doing 50, if you're doing 60, or if you was just parked and you turned and it popped out, you don't want that risk. So we bought both. I will leave a link in the description below. Everything that I'm replacing actually comes in a kit for only 50 bucks more than what I spent for the 2A arms. So I would take that route if I was you. You're already in here, might as well make sure it works. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up that area and stuff like that I was grinding down or drilling, but then go ahead and install the new one. All right, so everything's on, connected, tightened up, obviously. The only thing I'm waiting on is my sway bar end links. Amazon said that they were gonna bring it today, and now it's saying 7 to 9, so I'm gonna have to wait on that. Once I put the new sway bar end links on, again, 6mm hex socket in the center, tighten the nut. These ones are gonna be brand new, so you shouldn't have any worries. You just want to secure it on the bottom one, secure it up top, make sure it's tight, don't go over the kill, and then put your wheel on and we'll be good. Like I said, the last side or the other side, the axle, that's going to need replaced. That will be a separate video. As far as this is concerned, the A-arms, how to change your ball joint, your A-arms, stuff like that, sway bar end links, I might as well add that in there. This is that tutorial. So as you can tell, everything's complete. Went on there. Yeah, had a couple hiccups, but you know what? It's worth putting in this video. Not everybody has a 2011 Ford Edge that has zero rust and stuff like that. It's going to be easy. So this is going to be my journey in through this, and any tips and stuff like that that I've done when I came across those issues, hopefully it helped you get through it too. So as far as this is concerned, once my sway bar end links come in, I'll go ahead and put everything together, and that'll be it. Okay, end links finally came in, and like I said, things vary all the time. The last one was a 6mm hex for the center with an 18mm wrench to hold it. So these are now 17mm nuts, and you need a T30. So I'm going to place these in the description below if you need them for yours. They're relatively cheap. They're going to work. They all basically do the same thing, but like I said, this particular set that will be in the description below, this will be what's required. The T30 Torx head, and then a 17mm wrench. So let's go ahead and get these on and button this project up. Alright, here you are. Go ahead and remove both of the nuts on there, and it obviously, with the shape, it doesn't matter which side you do, just they got to go on. So I'm going to start with the bottom one, so I got more room to control and put this on here. Only thing you got to do, just put it in on one side and then put the locking nut. If you have one of these, just the rounded part that goes on the outside, that has the nylon in there, that's preventing it from, you know, backing itself off. You shouldn't really have to worry about that. It doesn't matter what you turn, whether it's the nut or that center shaft, because it's meant to pivot and stuff. As you can tell, I can't really turn the wrench, so my next option is to turn the center threads. There you go. Once it's there, just make sure you tighten it down pretty good. You don't have to go overkill on it. There we go. Now we do the top. Alright, so for this, a pry bar, I mean, or your hands, depending on your situation, but it's going to be, as you can tell, this is just a rod. There's no adjustment there. We got to get it in there. So just kind of pry up on that stabilizer bar. Okay, it shifts. See, I don't even have any tension on it. So once you get it up there, you're going to want to align it. Make sure it goes in all the way. And then same thing applies. Apply that nut. Like so. Wrench. And then tighten it. Alright, there we have it. Go ahead and turn this wrench a little bit. Alright, there you have it. It's on the ground now. Everything's complete on this side anyway. Like I said, as far as A-arms go and the sway bar end links, that's what this video is about. Unfortunately, with that problem that I had on the other side for the ball joint, that's when the axle ended up having this issue. So the next video that, if you're interested or not, or know anybody that might have an axle issue or their ball joint gave out and this is what they need to look forward to, go ahead and catch the next video. That's going to be all about the axle. So right now, this basically completes this video. Any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. Any tips that'll help anybody doing this, anything I might have missed. So I really appreciate it. Hopefully this helps out one of you or somebody else. Thank you. Till next time.